A millionaire stranded on the roadside. But the man who saves him? A homeless mechanic with a secret that will change everything. Robert Connolly was the epitome of success. Owner of a multi-million-dollar company. He had everything money could buy: a mansion in the hills, luxury cars, and a schedule packed with high-profile meetings. But his life was shallow. His relationships were transactional, and his heart was untouched by true gratitude or compassion. That fateful afternoon, as he stood on the roadside cursing his misfortune, a figure emerged from a nearby park. The man, clad in an old, grease-stained jacket and patched jeans, pushed an aging bicycle toward Robert. "Need some help?" the man asked, his voice calm but weathered. Robert hesitated, his initial reaction to dismiss the man overpowered by his desperation. "Do you even know anything about cars?" he scoffed. The man smiled. "Spent 15 years as a mechanic before. Well, life happened. Let me take a look." The man introduced himself as Frank. Without waiting for permission, Frank crouched by the car, pulling tools out of a tattered bag. He worked with steady, practiced hands, his expertise evident as he tinkered with the engine. Robert watched, uneasily at first, but then with growing curiosity. "If you were a mechanic, why aren't you working in a shop or running your own business?" Frank paused, wiping his hands on a rag. "Lost my family in a fire. Lost my home, my shop, everything. It's been hard getting back on my feet. But I know engines, and I know people." His words struck a chord in Robert, though he wouldn't admit it. Frank's life seemed a stark contrast to his own, where wealth insulated him from the struggles of ordinary people. Within an hour, Frank had the car running again. As the engine purred to life, Robert reached into his wallet to offer cash. But Frank shook his head. "I didn't do it for money. Just glad I could help," Frank said, his warm smile revealing an inner strength. Robert drove off, but something lingered in his mind. That night, as he lay in his lavish bed, Frank's words and humble demeanor gnawed at him. How could someone who had lost everything still carry himself with such grace? Over the next few weeks, Robert couldn't shake the encounter. He began to notice the disparity around him. The homeless man on the corner, the waitress working double shifts, the janitor who greeted him with a smile. Their lives had always been invisible to him, but now they stood out, demanding his attention. One day, Robert returned to the park where he had met Frank. After some searching, he found him fixing another broken-down car in exchange for a meal. Robert approached with a proposition. "Frank, I want to help you," Robert said. "I have resources. I have connections. Let's get your life back on track." Frank hesitated but agreed. Robert hired him as a mechanic for his company's fleet of vehicles and offered him temporary housing. It wasn't charity. It was an opportunity for Frank to rebuild. As the weeks turned into months, Frank proved himself invaluable. His mechanical skills were unmatched, but it was his integrity and work ethic that truly shone. He became a mentor to younger employees, teaching them not just about cars, but about perseverance and resilience. Robert, meanwhile, found himself changing. Inspired by Frank's humility and strength, he began to shift his priorities. He started volunteering at shelters, creating job programs for the homeless, and reconnecting with his estranged family. One evening, during a company event, Robert stood before his employees to make an announcement. Frank, now dressed in a crisp uniform, stood in the audience. "This man," Robert said, gesturing toward Frank, "reminded me of something I had forgotten. Success isn't measured by what you own, but by how you treat others. Frank didn't just fix my car, he fixed my perspective." The crowd erupted in applause as Frank walked up to join Robert on stage. From that day forward, Robert's life took on a deeper meaning. He learned that wealth isn't about hoarding riches, but about using them to uplift others. And Frank, once a homeless mechanic, became a symbol of resilience and hope. "Kindness is the engine of the human spirit," Frank once said, "and it runs best when shared." Their unlikely friendship was a testament to the fact that even the smallest acts of compassion can lead to life-changing transformations.